What's going on? I'm Zero to Chaos.
And I am melting data.
This is episode 7, but everything changes now because this episode was actually going to be, we had everything planned, we had everything ready to go, and then your boy Kendrick decides to drop a new album today.
You ain't lying. Y'all are going to hear this a little bit later. Our episode's on a bit of a delay, but Kung Fu Kenny came on, dropped a whole new album today.
Yo.
I was minding my business, scrolling through the internet, as one does. Came across it, and I was like, well, I know what I got to do today.
It's like we at least know what a couple hours is going to be set to today. That GNX. And they have the nerve. It's a surprise album. It's like, yeah, but we all knew it was coming. The real knew it was coming.
Oh yeah, Kendrick teased that
Man,
months ago, man. We knew this was coming for a minute.
You had social media people waiting eagerly for this thing. And I'm just like, ah. Now, I have listened to the album completely at least once.
As have I.
This is not going to be, a philosophical breakdown of each track and all that. I think we're going to come at this like just first impressions. I think would be the best thing I can say we can do for this.
That's fair, honestly.
I'm going to let you start it off, man. What you think?
Man, I gotta say, from what I heard so far, I like it. It's not his strongest album by far, because his two biggest ones, like To Pimp a Butterfly and Mr. Morale, I honestly don't think he's going to be able to outdo those this easily.
Okay.
That's something that he's going to have to work up for quite a while to kind of build up that level again. I mean, he can do it, though, easily. I do have one issue with the track list. Overall, it's not even that there was a bad track on it. But Squabble Up is the one that he teased, way, way long ago. And then it was track number 2. He could have teased us a little longer on that, I feel like.
I don't disagree with that one. Because there was a couple of things, too, just from, that quick glance. I was driving home from work when I first put it on, and my brain instantly went to just, the daggers. Just a quick, okay. So, until you brought that up, I did not think about that right away. I smiled when I heard the song, though. I was like, oh, man. But I didn't really think about, yeah, this is kind of early to be hearing this one. First off, is it just me, but the first track of the album referencing Lil Wayne? Am I the only one that caught that? I was literally take the Band-Aid off right away.
I don't think I did notice that, honestly.
Yeah, because he literally sat there. He mentioned the Carter, and then he was like Lil Wayne, and I was like, okay. And I'm like, okay, you're talking about, the idols, and I was like, ooh, okay. Now I'm not saying that was him taking shots or anything. I ain't trying to make no imaginary beef in this piece. But with the situation with Super Bowl, being in New Orleans, all that thing that was going on, I feel like that was a cool way to be like, we're just gonna talk about this right now. Get it out the way. Because the rest of this album has purpose. And that is not the focus of this.
I didn't even think about that right up at front. Now that you mention it, I see what you're saying. I think you're talking about the line when he was like, I won me a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that. I'm gonna be honest. When I heard that through the first time, I didn't even think about it.
Tell you. And it's just kind of like how you said. This is not a To Pimp a Butterfly. This is not that type of album. This... I feel like this is an awesome kind of closure to the sequence of events that we've had from Kendrick this year. And it's this is going to be the album, the surprise album, the Super Bowl, the Grammys, then the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Because I'll be real, now correct me if I'm wrong, chat, and correct me if I'm wrong, people who listen. I do believe that Kendrick is going to win at least one Grammy. At least one.
At least.
I don't know if this will be the first pure diss track to win a Grammy. I have not done my research, but I really think this would be the first pure diss track to win a Grammy. I think.
I don't know. I'd have to look that one up. I actually don't know that for sure. I do know that he dissed Drake to the Song of the Year. I know that for sure. It ain't been called yet, but like we all know that that's the case.
Of course. I mean, good chance that's how he got the Super Bowl.
Oh yeah.
You put Drake in a corner that he could not come out of. And then literally people are like, "Oh man, Kendrick bodied Drake, Cole ran off, blah blah blah." Now we got the surprise album where literally, in my opinion, I don't want to say average because I know someone's going to hear that and go insane.
Yeah.
And I will say I have more tracks that I like than I dislike.
Yeah.
I guess maybe I was looking too deep into it for the first time because I was trying to figure things out. And I know like I think it was the Heart Part 6 that he has on there.
Yeah.
And how that connects. So you can see the story that because there's always some form of story in Kendrick's albums.
Oh yeah.
You know, like Damn. You know, like how the Damn album, you can play it forward and backwards, and it's like
it's got two different messages depending on which way you go with it.
Yeah. So like I guarantee you by tomorrow or by the time this episode drops, there's going to be some music fanatic that figured out the special secret to this album.
Someone's going to have deconstructed this by that time. Kendrick's one of those artists that honestly, like, I don't think there is an album he's made that doesn't have a whole lot of like secret meanings, secret messages, and stuff like that thrown into it. Because, I mean, that's kind of been the listening experience the whole time with him. Mm-hmm. Is him throwing in those little things here and there so that his audience can, you know, because the best artist that I've ever listened to years later, you'll be listening to it again and you're like, whoa, I never caught that before. Yo. Like, and Kendrick is one of those where you'll be listening to it years later and you'll be like, you know, I never caught that the first time. I'm catching it now though.
You'd be like, he said that? How did I not catch it the first time? You're a little older now. Your mind is looking at it from a different perspective at this point.
Yep. And that's exactly what it is. Like, my two favorite top like tracks on it, obviously Squabble Up. We were all waiting for that one. Ain't nobody who wasn't waiting for that one. And probably my favorite track outside of that was Reincarnation.
Oh, yes. Oh, Reincarnated?
Is that what? Yeah. I guess I got the name wrong. Yo, that was good.
That was good. Squabble Up, definitely.
Yeah.
I did like Reincarnated. I like the back and forth of Reincarnated. A surprise third, Gloria.
That one was good.
I liked Gloria. I think that was the last track on the album. I like how when Kendrick has his albums, especially his last two projects now, they've been very informal, but still had that little off to it that makes you really start to like pay attention. And not many people can do that. I think the only other person, in my opinion, that does that really well is Tyler, the Creator.
That's honestly fair. And that's because Tyler, the Creator, like, he has built his entire brand off of, like, you cannot anticipate the next track on this album.
At all.
You can't anticipate the next news you're going to hear about me. like, you expect the unexpected, because that is exactly what you're about to hear.
100%. And it's funny, too, because when you hear him on the interviews and, like, on the radio, and how he goes, yeah, Someone just dared me that I couldn't make a hit off of this, so I did it. And I feel that's what
Yep.
Kendrick does. I feel like literally Kendrick is like, oh, I can't make a worldwide hit. I did it. Oh, and I dished you at the same time.
Yup.
It's those chess moves almost where they're just like, you know what? I know what I can do. I know what you can do. I'm gonna do what you do.
There's a lot of artists that do it that way where they're like, okay, you're coming to me what I can do. I'm gonna do what you do, and I'm gonna do it better than you, and then I'm gonna go back to what I do, and I'm gonna do that better too.
And do it better. No sly on the game, because I will say, I feel like it'll be disrespectful for me to say that Kendrick has been like holding it down this year. Just because, to be fair, the Drake and Kendrick situation was just the summer.
Yeah.
Really, like that did carry us through the summer. And I know even Tyler's album, if y'all haven't heard that, Tyler's new album,
Yo, that was
solid,
good.
solid. You know, so getting a surprise album from Kendrick now, and again, it wasn't like a quick EP. This is like 12 tracks, 12 full tracks
Yeah.
with features. One thing that we did before we started recording, I took my time and kind of like just went through all the people that worked on this GNX album, and mostly I could say maybe 90% of all of the artists either are affiliated with California in some way or are from California. Like you said earlier, before we started recording, this was literally a West Coast project, fully, honestly.
Which, I mean, we haven't really had a focus on the West Coast like that really since Aftermath Records. Because when Dre was doing his thing with Aftermath, like, that's the last time we really had a severe, like, West Coast focus to a bunch of artists. Since it merged with Shady Records, became Shady Aftermath, and they had enough people from, like, Detroit, New York, stuff like that, they stopped focusing on the West Coast part of it as much and just kind of on hip-hop in general.
Mm-hmm.
And so it felt good to see kind of like what is LA now, like what's the sound coming out of LA today.
Right. And
Because honestly, LA built most of what we now know in hip-hop.
constructively, yes. Because I will say, like, and this is me being, I won't say biased, but I was born in New York. The culture of hip hop coming from the East Coast, and then you know that is the hip hop that I was introduced to with KRS-One, you know, Run DMC. You know, we got that LL Cool J, and then because even though like when I heard Eminem and you heard of like Snoop Dogg, Tupac, all of them, then it was like I was young, but I never thought about, oh, that's like West Coast rap, that's East Coast rap, until the East Coast West Coast thing happened.
Well, Eminem really was an East Coast sound that was signed to a West Coast label.
Right. And that was, again, like it never clicked for me.
Yeah.
And then it didn't make it no better because then, you know, my family moved to the South. We moved to Georgia. And my
That's a whole different sound down there too.
It just, the whole lid cracked open. And that was the T.I.s, the Ludas, the Outcasts, the Goody Mob, CeeLo, you know, and
That's
I'm like,
good stuff right there.
oh, I was like, this is a whole new sound in its own. Then a little person by the name of Lil Wayne surfaced. And then, you know, then I started learning about Master P. We learned about Birdman and Young Money. And I was like, oh my gosh, you know, it's this culture flood. And this is what makes hip hop so great to me, is that, you know, when people always try to like micromanage it or like order it up, then it's like, no, it's hip hop. Boom. And even as time progressed forward and we got to the future of hip hop, maybe the sound changed a lot. You know, maybe the things that you were used to aren't the same. But I could definitely say that people like Kendrick and Cole, just, I would say the two biggest lyricists that we have on that scale, on that level, they kept it authentic.
Yeah.
And when people like Drake then became the top of the pedestal.
Top of the
He's
sales at least.
he was a bomb entertainer. He became entertaining. People love to hate on the guy, and trust me, I had my moments growing up. I really was like, yo, Drake, I need you. Like, I get that you want to sing, that you want to go over here with this, but your bars are actually pretty good. You might want to keep focusing on that. And it kind of didn't work out that way.
Yeah.
What Kendrick did need to happen.
The difference between, like, Drake is a good performer, Kendrick is a good artist. Drake can perform your song amazingly.
Right.
Kendrick can make the good song.
Right.
Drake needs a team.
I can agree with that. With Kendrick, he looked at that. He looked at it. And again, I feel like Kendrick at first was like, whatever, this is the guy that y'all want to call number one, whatever. But we know what's true. Yep. And then you have, the first person shooter song come out. J. Cole I feel like J. Cole was like, hey, the top 3 people in the game on one song, that could work. Personally, when Kendrick said no, I feel like J. Cole right there should have been like, maybe we need to reframe how we do this.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to come off the right way. I personally feel like GNX as the special album, I feel like we were going to get this anyway. So I personally, besides like Squabble Up, like certain songs on the track, I feel like some of these were already going to come out this year.
I could see that a little bit, yeah.
I just think Kendrick had to take care of some business first.
I don't know if we would have got the exact album, or at least like not now. I do think he was working on some of these, but I honestly think Kendrick looked at it. He's a smart enough guy that he realized, I'm not probably going to have the same number of eyes on me next year at this time as there are right now.
Right.
So I need what I have prepared right now so that I can kind of capitalize on that.
That's true.
Take advantage of what I got going on.
Now,
there's no other artist in hip hop that has had this many eyes on them this year.
By far. Yeah. By far. Because it's and definitely with that, going back to Super Bowl, him getting the bid for that, you're now going to be seen by other eyes that maybe looked over you. Because again, not everyone listens to hip hop. This culture is not, everyone's not ingrained in this. But I do believe that hip hop is the number one form of the number one genre of music. And it's not right, and it's not because of that. That's my favorite genre. I'm just gonna be blunt with everybody. I feel like back in the '90s, maybe R&B. You go back to like the '80s, '70s, a lot of classic rock. I feel the classic rock disco era for the '60s, '50s. The doo-wop. I don't know at that point, but you know what I'm saying? It's like the music evolved enough to the point now where hip hop has, I feel like, put that flag down, and a lot of cultural stuff is being represented through it. I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, this album was it moved me in so many ways. Like, no, the album it's a fun album. Like we've been saying this whole time, it's not one of his top albums, but it's fun. And if this is what we have to close out 2024, I can dig it. Whew. We all take a deep breath now. Because when I tell you, I think both of us were literally just charged. We were like, oh my gosh, man, what the crap? And my social media feed became Kendrified, if that's a word. I'm making that a word now. So I would say to close this moment for GNX, what was your final thoughts on the album itself?
As an album, it is not his strongest work. I don't feel like it had the same connection song to song, because a lot of his previous albums, they even went to the effort to make sure that transitioning from song to song, they kind of bled into each other a little bit. Like none of that was here.
Okay.
So like as an album, it is not his strongest album. That still has yet to be outdone. But I'm looking forward to Kenny in the future. So like we'll see it. Individual songs though, there are some of his best songs on this album. The two that I would say for sure I would consider some of his best is Squabble Up and Reincarnated. Especially in Reincarnated, that's where his skill as a storyteller, his skill at kind of connecting across different portions of his verse to tell like a larger narrative, it came through there, and it was really good.
To segue into the next topic, I am going to let you take this one, because this was a topic that you brought to the table.
Because I wanted to talk about it. I was scrolling through the other day on my YouTube feed, came across a Pirate Software video. If y'all don't know who he is, he streams on Twitch, posts on YouTube. And I saw a take of his that I thought was kind of an interesting take, and I really kind of agree with where he's coming from with it. And he was talking about, because he's an indie game developer, and he was talking about how their game used to be pirated in Brazil heavily, and that Brazil in general is well known for game piracy. And they had looked at it to try and figure out, like, why is this happening? And they found out that where they priced their game, it was just too expensive in Brazil. They couldn't afford it. So they just pirated it. Their solution to that was they just lowered the price specific to Brazil to a price that they could actually afford. And he was like, now people don't pirate our game in Brazil. And he was like, that being said, piracy is not a moral issue. It's not people just being pirates just because they can. They're not trying to steal just to steal. It's an access issue. If they can't afford or can't access your product, they will pirate your product.
Right.
And I can't honestly say that I've heard a more accurate take on that issue before that. I know Valve had talked about it a little bit in relation to like older games, that they were like, if you keep your older games up for sale on modern like storefronts, people won't pirate it because they can access it.
Right.
So they had talked about it a little bit, but even with modern games, I think that hits the nail on the head.
Oh, for sure. And I like that you put this on here, because I never heard that take of it before. And once you said it to me and I got to really sit down and think about it, I feel like most of the time that anyone even thinks about pirating anything is because either A, they just can't get their hands on it, realistically, it's out of circulation, or like you said, it's just too expensive. So another cheaper option comes up, and that kind of answers the question for someone. It's really telling now in 2024, especially how, like, a couple episodes ago, I think, if I'm not mistaken, we talked about licensing issues that we're having right now. Gaming has been, like, today, a gamer today has so much crap that you have to deal with.
Yes.
And just now you have to just add on, like, games are getting more expensive. You now have to really think about, like, okay, can I even afford this hobby? Because it's not a necessity. It is still a hobby. It's still a luxury, gaming. So it now becomes, okay, I can only afford maybe 1 or 2 games a year for some people at $70. Don't even get me started with Game Pass, PSN, Xbox Live, so maybe you're still paying to play online.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like,
I'm sorry to everyone on a console. That is garbage. They should not be doing that to y'all.
I personally, I 100% agree on that. And it still blows my mind that they haven't just either incorporated that pricing into, like, the subscription fees now that you pay.
Yeah.
Or just get rid of it. altogether. Like you raise the prices of games overall. Microtransactions exist. So what now? You know, but yeah, like, but back to piracy. This is not nothing new. You know, piracy has been around for as long as we've all been around,
Yeah.
in some shape, form, or fashion. If you were as old as us, do you remember how, like, to stop people from pirating certain games that had online features, they made it to where they came with the serial codes
Yep.
to go online? So then
Yep.
that messed up the secondhand market, like GameStop, EB Games, showing my age again, but that messed them up because now they're like, well, no one's going to buy your game if we don't have codes to give them. Because you could literally go to a store, buy your disc to play online with your friends, but you can't use the code that was you because it was already done.
Yep. Oh, someone else already attached it to their copy.
Right.
So it's a done deal.
So, so what happens? You pirate the code. You find something online, or you know someone who knows someone. You do it. We grew up in the 90s, y'all. So, like, we had LimeWire, Pirate Bay, and we're just talking about games. Don't forget movies. Don't forget music. Textbooks. I got my degree, I'm just saying. So, it is what it is.
Everyone who grew up in the 90s and the early 2000s, you know the distinct feeling that you didn't have money for that new album. So you went and you gave your computer some sort of virus so that you could listen to the new Lil Wayne.
just roll the dice. Or my favorite one, someone would say this was the new Lil Wayne. You download it. It's some SoundCloud rapper who just threw his stuff on there. You're like, crap, I didn't want this. But it kind of sound fire. I ain't gonna lie to you, though.
I can't even count how many times I had, like, mismatch artwork albums just, like, thrown into a folder on a flash drive. You try to sort that out, rename everything.
Oh, my.
And then when you try to, like, throw it on an MP3 player, none of your renaming sticks. So you're having to, like, look at weird track names and everything.
Yes. Or what was it? The YouTube rips straight from there. I remember there was a time in college where all of the songs that I was getting off the internet their BPMs were increased so that they could pass. So there was like a summer, I'm listening to all these songs thinking they're like faster than they actually are. And people are getting in my car going like, what is this? I go, oh, that's that new Ludacris. He's like, why is it like so fast? No, that's how the song is. He goes, I'm telling you, that's not how the song. I'm having full arguments with people. Like, this is how the song is. It's like, no, clearly this is not the actual song. And growing up, especially with my biggest love being gaming, I used to always tell, like, our close friends growing up, like, hey, man, really don't try to pirate some of these games, bro, because the money, we have to support. And at first, it's not wrong. Like, you do want to support these companies. And then you fast forward, and then you realize, like, yo, I've maybe dropped thousands of dollars in a year on these companies, and they're telling me now I can't even physically own a copy of a game that I buy off of their client. Yep. Or you look at me negatively and still throw microtransactions in my face. Do not get me wrong. I love Nintendo, but they have some of the worst preservation in the game today. And then they have the nerve to get pissed when they see people modding or emulating their games and go like, that's ridiculous. Yep. It's like, we've told you for years, bring these emulators, put them on your shop, we will buy them. And they choose not to.
And that's the thing, like, I can't look at a company like Nintendo that their best offer is, a few hundred games behind a subscription service that's upwards, I think it's like $30 a year for the base, but if you want to play like Nintendo 64, Sega Genesis, and I think like Game Boy Advance or something like that, I forget the systems, they block it behind an additional like $60 paywall.
Yep.
And so you're paying like full game price for games that are 20 plus years old. They've already made all the money they need to off of this. Meanwhile, their competitor, I guess former competitor, Sega has shown us how to do it. Steam has shown us how to do it. Because Sega, when it came to releasing all their old games, like, instead of trying to do it the way that Nintendo did it, where they're like, we're going to throw this behind a paywall, you got to pay a subscription, they just released the Sega Genesis Classics bundle on Steam that has like 60 games or something like that in it. It was like $30. And when you buy it, when you go to browse local files, it's just a list of ROMs. You can drop it into any emulator you want. So if you don't like the one they packaged with it, you can just play it in any emulator you want, but you bought the ROMs. They're yours. You can use them however you want. And that's the way that Nintendo should be doing it. They could release their own like Nintendo Classics collection, or like, you know, they could do the NES Classics, the Super Nintendo Classics, you know, etc. And they could do it the same way, just a ROM list that, hey, you know, when you buy it, these are the ROMs that come with it. You know, later on, maybe we'll have an expansion pass that'll bring like, you know, maybe we have the Mario bundle that adds in all the rest of the Mario games. You know, maybe we have the fighting game bundle where we add in, you know, all those, you know, whatever. But like, there's ways to sell your ROMs. You could do it the way that Valve does it, you know, through Steam. They just still sell all their old games, and they all work.
All work. With no issues. You see an old Pokemon game going for like $200-$300 on the resale. You know? So it's like we gave the company, the corporation, a lot of hits. But I'm also going to talk about these secondhand sellers too, though. And y'all ain't making it no better either. You know, it's like, I get it.
Honestly not.
You know, I get it. I got that Legend of Zelda OG in the box, unopened, $250 to $500. Like, bruh, come on. You know, it's like it's this constant give and take system, and you know, we see it in other cultures. You know, I think the only one that doesn't really get hit hard by this is the music culture. You know, like, unless you're looking for like old printed vinyls.
Yeah.
You know, but streaming, like the streaming services came out and kind of just cut that instantly. And I can see that is what gaming is trying to do. But you really can't, because it's like, it's not music. It's not like you can just...
It's the songs.
Right.
Like, they fixed that. Your camera's froze. But like, they fixed the access problem on like all the streaming services for music. The issue I got with the streaming services, I honestly think Snoop Dogg...
Okay.
You're good now. I think Snoop Dogg put it the best when he was like, you know, explain to me the math. Maybe we can figure this out. But how does someone have millions of views and millions of plays on Spotify, but they ain't got millions of dollars?
They ain't got nothing.
It don't make sense.
And you say that too. Was it Corday? I saw a video when he was with I Am Dante, a YouTuber that I watch who does music as well on the side. Mm-hmm. And Dante was saying, and they were talking about that. And I think he said like 300. He said like back in the day, 10,000 people could go buy your album, your whole album, and that's 10,000 sales, right off rip. He's like, now 300,000 people can stream your song, and he's like, that's only maybe 200 to 300, like sales.
Yeah.
And he's like, but that's 300,000 phones that have listened to your project, and it doesn't add up correctly at all.
Yeah.
And some people could say, well, you know, they're not paying for CDs anymore. They're not paying for like a lot of the physical hardware that went into making music. You're not paying the Walmarts, the Best Buys, the Targets to keep your CD in their stores. But I feel like too that cut the piracy though. You know, because now I feel like in the 2000s, in the mid 2000s and early 2000s, when we, you know, the internet generation, us, we were like, well, we love this artist, but we just want to listen to that one or two songs that they have on the album.
Yeah.
And unless you were just a music head who was just like, I'm going to get your whole album, but I can't afford to buy the new Outkast album and the new Jay-Z and the new R&B or country song album that came out. Because don't forget it, don't get it twisted, people. You know, if you're a music head and you really mess with music like that, there's new songs, new albums back then coming out like every week.
They still coming out constantly.
Like constantly.
I'm that kind of guy. If I like one song on your album, I am buying your album.
Right.
Like, and that's how it's always been. And so, like, that's why our computer had some issues back in the day from some non-reputable sources. But, like, I was going to listen to the full album. Like, that was not a debate. That was going to happen. And that's how I still am. Like, I prefer... Like, yeah, I know a lot of artists are starting to get into where it's like, oh, song by song. But I still prefer... Like, I want the whole album. Right. I want to listen to it all the way through. I want that experience. And back in the day, that was expensive. That was an expensive hobby to have.
So expensive.
When you're paying, you know, $15 a CD. Mm-hmm. Like, that added up really quick.
Easily.
And most of these artists, if we're being real, most of these artists, they don't care that you pirated their music. I forget who it was. He was in an interview with Lil Wayne fairly recently, and he was like, man, he's like, I gotta say, I'm sorry. I pirated so many of your albums back in the day. And Lil Wayne was like, bro, don't even worry about it. That music was for you. I made it so that you could listen to it. Don't even worry about it. I still made money.
Right.
We're good.
Because I feel like with music, streaming services have their issues, but it does make that part of life easier, and I do thank them for that. It's like, you know, you've made more music accessible to us easier.
Yeah.
You know, now the payment and all that, we may talk about that later. Gaming
as a whole different beast,
right? Honestly. Before gaming, movies, I am a little bit more strict when it comes to movies. The bootleg culture runs deep in movies. You know, now we got the Fire Sticks now. Some people have, you know, cracked Rokus and stuff where they can just get all the new movies and stuff when they come out. I'm a little bit more iffy with that when it comes to the piracy. I'm not saying that I'm innocent in this. There was a couple of like TV shows that maybe got canceled, or there was a couple of shows that never got DVD releases because of shenanigans, and I may have pirated those. But note, when they did finally make a DVD box set of those things, I did go buy them. So it's not like I just pirated them and said whatever. But gaming needs to get better, because I love that. I love that this company said that. And the biggest thing about that company lowering their price to make it accessible. I think a lot of people need to kind of comprehend that. You know, not the companies, the people, because us, the consumer. Because at the end of the day, if we just keep accepting the fact that they're going to keep raising the price of these games and now take away our ownership of the game, where does the line end at this point? Because now it's like we're paying $70 for video games. Scratch that. Most people now are paying over $100 for games. With getting the game a week early.
Yeah.
Maybe getting season passes. that may never come. I have a story about that too, if we have time. Piracy, it has a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths because let's keep it a buck. It's technically it is not it is stealing. it is stealing, but we've now come to this point of if the product is not given to you or if the product is not there for you, what do you do? I'll bring it into more of a 2024 issue. If I purchased your game and you remove it from the client and now I can't download it anymore.
Bro, that pisses me off when companies do that.
You know what I'm saying?
I about had some words with id Software, man. Because I've always had the Doom games installed on my Xbox for the longest. I went to launch it one day and it was like, this game's not available. And I was like, why?
Why?
I've owned the first Doom for a long damn time.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out what it was is you had ownership of the game still, but it's because they redid it into their Doom 1 plus Doom 2 bundle and didn't adjust the store listings. It's like, it was okay in the end, but like when stuff like that happens, I'm so used to games just, they're gone.
They're gone.
Like when I saw that it wasn't launching, I was like, bro, are you really telling me you took the first Doom
Just
off
gone.
the Xbox?
Right.
Like, nah, that's my game. I grew up playing this. Yes, I'm aging myself, but it's okay.
But it's the fact,
Like,
or they say it's the principle behind it. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's what just so irks me. And remember, we just been talking about piracy. We ain't even been talking about these like HD, like the HD Nintendo 64 emulator boxes that be coming out.
bro,
So that's okay to y'all? Because a lot of those companies don't have the okay to make these things.
I've seen so many ads for stuff like that where they're like, oh, this has like 3,000 games, and it's like, you are walking a fine line. I don't know what country's laws make it legal for you to do that,
But bruh,
but it ain't this one.
come on, look at on TikTok. I know some people. I ain't no snitch, but I know some people who literally got like the PS2s and like the Xboxes that are or the Wiis that are completely cracked out, and they like on the Wii, and they can play like every single game that was ever made from Nintendo.
Let me tell you what. I took my own 3DS back in the day. Well, not even back in the day. I took my own 3DS and I modded that thing. I got the whole 3DS library, the whole DS library, the whole Game Boy library.
Okay. So Data, am I allowed to make this a short? Just that part of you showing that.
Man, go for it.
Will that be
I ain't
community?
scared of Nintendo.
Will that be super snitching?
I ain't scared of Nintendo.
I ain't scared. Next thing you know, a warp pipe appears behind you on the screen.
You said that you weren't scared of us.
It's like, you know what you did. You know what you did. But come on, like, I can't even blame you for doing that. You know what I'm saying? It's like, look at people's Steam Decks. I'm calling it out. Why do you... Let's be real. Let's keep it real. The rest of this episode is going to be piracy. Let's keep it 100. Do you know why Xbox, well, Microsoft, Nintendo, why they're trying so hard to get this handheld, not like the regular handheld, but like the Steam Deck? They're trying so hard to knock the Steam Deck out of contention. Because they know what happens when you give the consumer that much freedom. There's
Valve is the company for consumer freedom too. Like, don't get it twisted. Like, Valve is that company that they don't care
at all.
Like, Valve knows that their games have been pirated in the past, and when they were asked, like, what are you going to do about that? And they were like, nothing.
Nothing. At the end of the day, we got your money in some form, in some way.
Yeah.
It sounds really effed up to say it that way. But it's the truth, though. And look at Nintendo. Nintendo has made it pretty clear on many occasions. We've talked about them a couple on our podcast. Where, you know, it's like, all we want is just these older games. And like how Data literally just said in this episode, how they put it behind a paywall.
Yep.
And then what happens when they decide, oh, we don't want to put that on there anymore? Just take it away. Let's keep it a buck. If you keep paying $60 a year or $60 a month, add that up. You know what I'm saying? Add that up.
It gets real expensive real quick.
Mad expensive. You literally just, and you gotta think about that too. It's like I could buy the latest fighting game. Let's just use Tekken 8, right? If I can go to the store, get a physical CD of Tekken 8 for what, $70, and I can't even say that I own Tekken 8 because a lot of these discs just take you to the network to download the game.
To the download page now. All the disc is the keys so that it knows what, you know, copy, which license technically belongs to you.
Right.
It's not even the copy of the game anymore.
Right.
It's just
come
worthless.
on. Look at modders, man. And this is what really concerns me with the future of gaming. It's like we're not protesting with our pockets already. We're not showing that the quality of games that you're giving us is not okay. I'm not going to sit here and say that like everything is trash, because it's not. Gaming is in a very weird spot, but it's also in a very like good spot. You know, if we have to be objective, like gaming has not been this way ever, and that's why we're having these issues today, because money is being made in these hills, in these gaming hills. And this is why we're getting so much pushback. But then this is why like the piracy thing happens. You know, it's like none of these big corporations want to sit down and go, hey, who's going to be the first one to take that step to be like, well, let's make games affordable that work, and let's not nickel and dime our consumer. I recently, even today, I heard on a podcast, and they made really good sense. They were like, why would the casual gamer leave Apex Legends after they've invested thousands of dollars into this game?
That's how a lot of people look at it, where they're like, I've already put so much into this, like this is it now. Like that's what I do.
Yep. And they get stuck. That's why, people laugh at me, but it's like, that's why I refuse. I refuse to put money into free games like that. I refuse. And it's really because look at what happens to you later down the road. You don't get that money back. You know, you maybe have like the time, you maybe got like a skin or something that was unique, but that's it. And then what happens if Apex slips up and then no one plays it no more? Now you've lost all that.
Yep.
You don't get a tax return or a check from that. Well, some people do, but you gotta know how to do it though. I'm not gonna lie to you.
There are the Tim the Tapmans in the world that the first day they play Apex, they drop, you know, however much it was on 500 loot boxes.
Mm-hmm. And get that return. When it comes to piracy altogether, what is your take on piracy? And what would you do to fix it?
When it comes to piracy in the United States, which is, you know, that's the country, the laws that I know. You know, I can't speak on every country, but in the United States, it is definitely illegal. But I can't say that I think it's immoral. Because I believe that culture isn't something that should be gatekept just because you did or didn't have enough dollars for it. You know, you should be able to participate in culture. And unfortunately, that means that a lot of people are going to get there because of piracy. You know, that being said, I think the best way to curb it And most companies aren't going to be willing to do it because it just goes against kind of financial sense, I suppose. You have to drop your prices. There's no way to like say that a different way. I don't think like you have to drop your prices. You're pricing people out of your games that otherwise would buy it, and because they can't afford your game, they're going to pirate it. That's why Nintendo with Metroid Dread, with the Metroid Prime remaster, with Tears of the Kingdom, with the new Echoes of Wisdom, I think it was called, the new one that just came out.
Mm-hmm.
Every single one of those, they've had massive pirates right off the bat because you're pricing these at $70 a game. Like, you went up in the price. People don't actually own this. They just own a license from your store now. Like, you're pricing people out of a game that they would like to buy. I haven't played Echoes of Wisdom because of the price. I want to, but I refuse to spend that much money on a game. It's ridiculous. Like, I'm not playing a game that I would really want to play because of how they priced it. I'm not doing that.
You know, people are gonna do what they have to do when the people who own it don't want to change it. And yeah. I can also agree as well, and this has nothing to do with being broke or being whatever the community makes you feel, because there's people out there in the community that truly shun people for not being able to afford things. Yeah. Which is wild. But, you know, life is life, and personally, I would love to play all these games, and I can't. So I have to kind of suck it up, and I use Game Pass. You know, and don't get me wrong, like, Game Pass has its issues. It does, but at the same time, I have to thank them for at least giving me a pseudo-affordable way to play the newer games that I can't. So I don't have to go the route of, like, I gotta pirate it. Yeah. So in short, everybody that listens to our podcast, man, be safe, please. You know, don't take us talking about this as us saying, go out and just steal. You know, like, that's not what we're saying right now. But I hope that y'all got out of this is that we want you to really think about what you are buying and what you are receiving in return for your money. So I guess I could say, let's bring back having pride in what we get, and really analyze things. Don't just be a negative Nancy on everything, because not everything is bad. Because when you do that, we lose companies that possibly could be the one to make that change.
This is true.
We have lost so many companies in 2024. So many people have lost their jobs in the gaming industry. And it's not because of piracy.
Not even remotely.
I'm going to leave it there. Do your homework, and you'll be surprised how many of these companies got closed because either people are saying the game sucks without even playing it. They put a negative taste in people's mouths before the game even drops. They say the game is too woke, or the game is just too high. And then the company goes, well, the game was a failure because no one bought it.
Yep.
You know, so please guys, be careful with your wallet. And be careful, because we have to make the change. Where it starts, I can't tell you. But I do know a change has to come before this gets better. If it doesn't come, you're going to keep seeing the piracy and stuff happen. That's our time for episode 7. Hopefully, you know, hold on, let me. I'm still kind of in that low moment. Give me a second. All right. Whew. Hopefully, y'all love this episode, man. We drop again. We be reaching, man. I'm gonna be honest, Data, man. We be touching all the corners of emotions, man, on this podcast.
You got to sometimes, though, because like when it comes to different forms of culture, it brings up a whole bunch of different emotions. So like,
So much.
you gotta feel them.
Got to. And I hope that everybody that is watching, listening, I hope y'all feeling it too, man. Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments of whatever form that you were watching this on. We really didn't do it earlier because Kendrick came. You know what I'm saying? So we had to give Kendrick his time. But we see all the comments. We see all of the suggestions. Do not be afraid. Please keep giving us suggestions, good or bad. There are some bad ones, but I want you to know that we are listening and we write it down. You know, we may not do it on the next episode, but it's in the chamber. It's coming. All right. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on Spotify. You know, we're really trying to get that Spotify listening rate up. So, you know, as long as you're keeping it within the community. And please share it. So you know, so we can grow this community. We can get bigger and better. Hopefully, everyone had a good Turkey Day. Happy belated Thanksgiving. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully, everybody didn't eat too much. But be safe out there, guys. Data, anything else you want to say?
Not too much, man. Just we appreciate all the love, all the comments, everything that y'all been giving us. You know, like he said, check us out on Spotify. We're on Amazon Podcast too. Apple still hasn't approved us. So, but check us on YouTube, TikTok, Amazon Podcast, Spotify, wherever you like to get your content from. We're there.
Until next time, I'm Zero to Chaos.
And I'm Melting Data.
And this has been Culture Clash. And always remember, times come and go. Piracy may be at an all-time high for some people. But we're going to come together. Because this is a culture where we don't clash all the time. That's a mouthful. Y'all just have a good time, man. I was trying to make it deep, man. I failed. Y'all have a good day, man. I'm out.